Greetings everybody and welcome back to 5 recently released albums, the series where each week we take a look at a couple of releases that were off the beaten path with the past weekend. So that means that we're a little late, we're a little tardy with this video, so while you're scoping out the new releases by groups such as NEGURA or The Devil Wears Prada or Alter Bridge, scope out these 5 releases from last week, which may have gone underneath your radar. So let's get started. Let's take a look at our first observation, and that is the Dark Hereafter by Winterfylleth. Now, this band is a bit strange. They're sort of an epic black metal project that has a little bit more atmosphere that sort of centers around their sound. They're on the softer register by comparison to some of the other acts within this universe. You could say that they have that epic quality. I'm considering most of their songs tend to tread a little bit longer in length. Now, this is a 5-song album, which is a bit short, and based off of that, we have just a couple of tracks of, 9 to 7 minute distinction, and their big one, their massive song Green Cathedral, is a little bit more than 13 minutes, and it's really the highlight of this 5-track affair, considering it sort of has this little swirl to it that resembles a bit of Agalloch before launching into their traditional epic black metal. Think of what would happen if Moonsorrow were concerned less about folk and just decided to straight up tell some stories, I guess, which is what I can get from Winterfylleth, especially here with the Dark Hereafter. We've talked about one of their albums before. I believe it was the Mercurian Sphere, and that was very well done. This one's not quite as good as that. In fact, this one feels like it leaves a lot behind, that there's a little bit lacking on this album that really could have been aided by a little bit more material. But either way, it's a fairly enjoyable experience. If you enjoy this side of black metal, you're going to probably fall in love with Winterfylleth. I know that there's been a bit of an uptick in their popularity in recent months and years, so check out the Dark Hereafter, and definitely check out Green Cathedral off of this album. Definitely a highlight at 13 minutes, so let's move on. Our second observation comes in the form of Rhiea by Oathbreaker. Now, if you've looked at the description for this band, you may be a little bit turned off right away, considering you see terms such as post-metal or post-black metal, which you see everywhere, and then you see that post-hardcore idea, and you might get a little bit scared that somehow, some way, there's been a cross-infiltration. Do not sleep on Oathbreaker. This is a truly unique product that's based out of Belgium. Female vocals, they do have a post-hardcore side that comes out really over top of the post-black metal or the black metal. Really, if you enjoy what you heard from a group such as Death Heaven, Oathbreaker is going to be right up your alley, although I will also warn a little bit that there are moments on this album where the savagery reaches some dark levels. The very second track off of this, Second Son of R, ends with just labored screams from this female vocalist that just absolutely torture your soul and sort of melt your mind a little bit. It certainly showcases the wide breadth of talent that this singer possesses, considering on 1056, which is the opening track off of this album, we hear just basic, almost spoken song lyrics from this artist, and it is certainly one that is a bit more haunting. It definitely resembles a little more of, almost beat poetry to some very dark, moody ambience in the background. You're going to notice another thing that's going to sort of 86 that post-hardcore idea right out the window, and it's the fact that some of these tracks are freaking long, 7, 8 minutes in length, and they swirl between a bunch of jostling moments, from that rip-roar, destructive black metal edge with those searing, just destructive vocals that then temper off into more beautiful and harmonious instances where the vocals really become almost like a ghostly whisper, and it's one that creates mood, eerie atmosphere, and also really delivers a certain code of, where they want to be. Is the code either destruction, or is the code one of more solitude or more of depression? Either which way, Oathbreaker is bound to impress a lot of people that probably would have passed by this record based around the guise of that post-hardcore idea, whenever this group has a lot more to offer than just that. Scope out the aforementioned Second Son of R, Needles in Your Skin, and also the very strange trio of songs, I'm Sorry, This Is, and then Where I Live, and then Where I Leave. There's definitely a story within this, and it's one that doesn't end well. Let's scope this one out. If you thought Shining was the only band that blended metal with jazz, you're definitely wrong. There's been groups in the past that have done it, and now there's also Tentacles with their self-titled release, which is our third observation here. This is an 11-track affair that bends and weaves between jazz and metal, sometimes abandoning heavy metal altogether for just a jazzy, sort of strangeness. And this is that avant-garde philosophy that sort of molds together with it in order to bind and create a brand new atom of just strange. These are interesting compositions that certainly examine some of the more absurd sides of music while still maintaining a cohesiveness to them, which is no small feat to accomplish. It's certainly something that needs to be marveled at upon exploration. This is something where you can really see the jostle point between shorter tracks such as the 2-minute or the 3-minute opening 2 tracks that immediately go into the 9-minute and 8-second Cosmic Warriors Girth Curse, which is one that starts off with many frequent start and stops with seconds of absolute nothingness that then eventually bop and weave their way into an actual cohesive track. I love the way that this can start off small or start off very, silent, maybe just bending together some jazzy horn, and then becomes a little bit more boombastic and rises up to really meet the leader of this group. It's one that's also a bit of a supergroup, including a member from Yakuza, which is definitely a legend within this circle, so it's going to be one that's going to demand a little bit of interest, a little bit of exploration, for fans of avant-garde and for fans of, bands such as Yakuza. So this is one not to miss. They're touring right now with Intronaut, so if you like that band, scope out who they're going to have on the bill with them by scoping out Tentacles. NEGURA Bunget with Z-I. These guys are truly interesting. It's been kind of a theme of this week's episode, all of these groups have something odd about them. With the NEGURA Bunget, they started off as a black metal band. They've added progressive sides, an avant-garde portion to their sound. There is nothing that is typical about this group. They have been going at it since 1995-ish, so they have 20 years under their helm. This is an album that is very defined by just that strange sense of pace and tone, and that has made NEGURA Bunget a more prominent name in years past. However, it's that sense of sort of deliberate purpose that gives this group their sort of subtle charm. This is one that maybe won't stand toe-to-toe with some of their classics. I don't think it bends and weaves enough. It's one that instead opts for a little bit more convention that is then outer-laced with some of that strange charm that have really caused NEGURA Bunget to get a strong reputation prior to these last couple of albums that they've released this year and last year. Last year's, I believe, his name was Pow. This is a disc, though, that has something very strange about it as well, with a couple of strange mixes that are, I guess, included with a bonus edition, either that or just with a standard edition, which sort of reworks some of these songs, reimagines them a little bit, and gives it a strange sort of seduction. So, overall, this is not that bad. It's certainly worth the curious listen. However, if you definitely like what you hear on this album, my recommendation would be to scope out their material from the late 90s and early 2000s, maybe up to about 2005. You have some really, really just landmark albums to really scope through with that. All with names that I can't pronounce, so that's why I'm being a bit cryptic. Look them up for yourself and give them a listen. And, check out Z as well, or Z-I. Our final observation is not quite as weird as the ones that came before it. This is Truckfighters with their brand new album V, or 5. And this is the band that Josh Homme right now thinks is one of the best bands on the planet. If you don't know who Josh Homme is, wow. Why are you watching anything on this channel? But the Truckfighters are a sort of stoner fuzz metal band, a group that has more of a hard rock sensibility to them, almost like what would happen if Clutch took a bunch of acid and smoked a bunch of pot and crossbred with Elder. They have sort of that charm to them. They have a lot of great big-time fuzzed-out riffs that certainly will apply to not only stoners, but fans of that variety, and the riffs are real. They have a loudness to them that is completely and totally by design, and based off of that, it's something that just layers your eardrums with density whenever you flow and listen through this on a set of headphones. This is a really bona fide strong album just based on the fact that its melody is very catchy, everything that they produce has a certain charm to it that seduces you. It's almost like they got the, snake from the Don't Tread on Me, flag to come off and just started picking up a guitar and jammed out and decided that fuzzed out stoner metal slash, stoner rock had an instantaneous appeal to it. That snake's pretty freaking weird. That's why we don't call it Snake anymore, we call it Snack. But at any rate, this is a really strong, solid album. Probably the highlight of this week. We really don't have a surprise for this week, but if I were to say of a group that maybe will take you by true surprise, especially if you're not a fan of, stoner rock or stoner metal traditionally, I think Truckfighters might be able to break through that veil and give you something that you weren't expecting. Almost consider them High on Fire light, which is pretty cool because High on Fire is a group that's also discussed at length on this channel quite a bit. So definitely scope out 5 by Truckfighters. And with that saying, that is number 5 for the 5 recently released albums that you should check out. If you think that there was any that were missed, definitely let me know in the comments below. And of course, we have a big weekend coming with Meshuggah, Devil Wears Prada, Alter Bridge, and oh boy, there's one I'm forgetting. And I can't read it! Oh god, why am I blind? It sucks! I'm forgetting somebody, but I'm sure we're going to cover it. Santa Arctica, there it is. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe. Check this out. We do this every week, so if you enjoy the series, if you got something new from it, then definitely hit the subscribe button and consider tossing a couple bucks over to the channel via the Patreon, either that or the donation tab. That is in the description box below. My name is CoverKillerNation, and I thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.